All aboard!
Outdoor service owners, rise and shine. It's time to start fueling your success, one adventure at a time. Welcome back to Outdoorsy Entrepreneur, brought to you by Housecall Pro, where business owners come and explore ways to take charge and level up. Join us on this journey every Wednesday. Like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel, and listen to wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on our social media platforms at Outdoorsy Boss. Today, we're talking with Alex and Shiloh from Zevbit Estimation Software. They're going to run us through a demonstration of estimating a home service trade from scratch using their software. What's going on, guys?
How's it going?
Going good.
Hi, thanks for having us on. We're really excited to be here and run through all the different numbers. Before we get started, do we want to talk a little bit about how people are currently estimating and kind of some of the roadblocks and problems that you run into with those?
Yeah, give us kind of the background of estimation. You know, where was it 10 years ago and where you've brought it today with the Zevbit platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of guys are doing square foot pricing, which is kind of the easiest way to get into it. For a paper patio, you might be $25 a square foot or whatever it is in your area. A lot of times people will just figure out what other contractors in the area are charging and then use those numbers when they're getting into it, and they start out that way.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
And then kind of the next level up from there is like figuring out all your material pricing and your man hours on the job that you're going to need. You got to estimate all that so that you can estimate and quote it a little bit more accurately. There are some other tools and systems that you can use to do that, but what we found is it was still very manual entry, where you had to go and manually plug in how many tons of base do I need of this, how many yards of topsoil, how many of this, and as well as how many days the job would take. You would have to manually calculate a lot of that information, which caused estimates to take a long time. And it wasn't very scalable. Like everything was in the owner's head and they had to be doing the estimates. Otherwise they couldn't, have all the numbers accurate. So what we kind of led towards is to build a tool that could help automate the process. You could plug in the size and the square footage, and it could give you all the materials and the man hours you would need based off of your company's information.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we see people doing a lot of square foot pricing, and it's because in the beginning they'll calculate everything, but then as the season goes on, you just don't get time. Okay. You're pushing your estimates out a few days, and so you just rely on what the previous job was, and it ended up profitable, but each job is different, as you know. So it's very key to have all your materials that you estimate on so you can then track them when you're completing the project.
Yeah, I found certainly 10, 15 years ago, we were just all about, I've seen this type of job before. That last one took so many hours. So, you just do the kind of drive by and check the wind temperature, wind range, and hope for the best. But then as progressed, you come across good estimation via Excel sheets, but then it gets cumbersome, confusing. Hey, what if I forget to put this number there? And so you end up, oh man, I forgot that part. And then you send the bid in anyway. And you're like, damn, oh shit. Hopefully we can make some money. So your software, you took all that confusion and the ability for someone just to simply plug in quantities, and it can auto-calculate production rates based on quantities and sizes.
Yep.
And then they've developed a budget beforehand on your software. So they have this overhead recovery and profit recovery built in. And then they simply go to the proper
templates, different line items. Yeah.
So you guys have multiple templates that they can pick at any given point during a job quote. Simply fill that in and boom, they got the number. And then you have some other automations built in after that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. We hear the same thing all the time from other guys of like, they're sending out estimates and they forgot to include something. Like after they sent it, they realized, oh, I didn't include the disposal cost for this, or, oh, I left this one thing out. And they realized after they already sent the estimate, it's hard to kind of add that back in at that point. So a lot of times they just end up eating the cost. And so it's super important to have a system to make sure you're not forgetting about those little things, the mobilization hours to go bring the machines, or a disposal cost, or some of these other things.
Yeah. It adds structure to their estimating, because all of our templates go start to finish of the line item itself. It's like reading a book and you can't forget anything.
Nice. And it's a lot less, you made it so simple. So there's a lot fewer boxes to fill in as well. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Should we jump into it? Show how it works?
Yes. Explain, what trade, what service we're going to go over and go through it.
Absolutely. So we're planning to do a block retaining wall template with you guys today. Just kind of show you how it works, plug it in, like the length of the retaining wall, the height, and see everything that's included within a block retaining wall. So you guys can get an idea of like how the system works. And then afterwards, we can also look at like a planting line item for installing plants and trees and all the different options that come with that.
Cool.
All right, awesome. I'll go ahead and present my screen here. All right, so this is inside of Zevbit software here. The first one we want to go through is this block retaining wall template as an example. So the first one we're going to do is plug in the length of the wall. So what do we want to say here, guys? Should we do 50 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's say 50 foot tall, 50 foot long retaining wall. It's in here, but at 4 feet tall, you can of course adjust that. And we also include a section where you could add, let's say you have another part of wall that's only 2 feet tall. You could add that in here as well.
Nice.
From there, you'll put in the depth of excavation. So it's in here at 3 feet back that we're going to be excavating for the wall. Maybe if this is a 4 foot wall, we might need geogrid. So maybe we'll bump this out to like 6 feet of excavation.
And excavation, is that your footer or is this behind
This
the
is
wall?
behind the wall, from the face of the wall to how far back you need to excavate.
Okay.
Yeah. So to make room for all the gravel backfill, and if you need geogrid, that's what that would be for. Yeah, from there we have type of access. So we could have like good access, okay access, or bad access. And this is important because if you need to get a skid steer and an excavator back in there to install this retaining wall, it's important whether you can use your big skid steer and excavator, or if you have to bring in a mini excavator, or like worst case have to do it by hand. So we can have these different access in here to be able to automatically change the amount of days that are allocated for the job.
Right.
From there, we try and auto-calculate as much information as possible. So the first thing is the yards excavated. It's going to calculate that with a 20% fluff factor. So it's saying for this wall, it's going to be 27 yards that we need to excavate. And then we can choose how we're going to actually haul that dirt off. So we can choose, are we going to use a dump truck, a dump trailer, or if we're going to use a trucking subcontractor to do that.
What if a contractor is able to leave the dirt on site?
Yeah, so if they're able to leave on the dirt on site, then they'll just edit this here to 0, and then it won't include that in the disposal there.
And they may want to leave some in because you got to move it to that location too.
Yeah, maybe you only want to put like 15 I need to actually haul off, and it'll recalculate it based off that number. And then we get into the footer. So we can choose between a gravel footer, a concrete footer, or if they have an existing footer. So for most retaining walls, you can do gravel footers. Some circumstances you need a concrete footer. But from there, you'll put in the width of the footer and the type of gravel that you want to use. So in here we have like a concrete rock, but I could switch it to a different type of rock. And this will all be different depending on your area. So part of the initial setup of this is to put in your specific materials and your pricing so that it's accurate off of your company.
Okay.
From there, it'll tell me how many tons I need at 6 inches deep for this footer. If I need to adjust it to, maybe I need a 12-inch footer for this job, I could adjust that here and it'll recalculate it. From there, we have the type of wall block we're actually going to be using. So this is like, again, from your supplier, whether you're going to use Belgard or Unilock or a different type of wall block, you can have all your options in here and how much it costs you so that it's like all saved inside of the system for you.
Yeah.
And then how many pallets we're going to need. We also include a pallet fee, which sometimes this is missed, but it's like $30 per pallet. You could also change it if you don't have those in your area.
And also for the pallets of block needed, does it round up to the nearest up pallet? Yeah,
so it's rounding up how many pallets to show you that. As far as the actual amount of block, you can adjust that as needed as well. Like maybe you want to go up to 7 pallets fully, or if you need a little extra, that kind of stuff, you can actually adjust that down here as well, which we'll get to. But yeah, it is rounding up automatically from 6.67 pallets to 7 there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. And then we have the type of caps. So again, this will be supplier, like we have like Belgar cap square, Belgar Copian rounded, and you can have all your different options in here. Each of these suppliers have different options that with different pricing. So we'll want to put all those in there with that.
And a user can input their own material list as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. They can import it directly in from their supplier, or they can manually add it as well. Yep.
Okay.
And then from here, you can choose whether you're going to actually be picking that up or if you're going to have the supplier deliver all the wall blocking the caps. So if you're having the supplier deliver it, you can put in how much they're going to charge you for it. It's in here at $250. Or if I switch it to like picking up the material, then instead I can put in how many hours is it going to take me to go pick up that wall blocking caps.
Hey, Shiloh, one thing, it says 10 linear feet for your caps, but in the wall...
The cap,
in the wall 50 feet? Yeah.
Right by the type of cap. So that's $10 per linear foot.
Oh, yeah. Here.
Showing your cost.
Yeah. So this isn't how many linear feet. This is the cost of this. If I switch this to Unilock, that one costs $12 per linear foot. So that's the price of these, not the quantity.
Okay.
This was whether you want to pick up the material here, the wall block and the caps, or if you want to have the supplier deliver it. So if you pick it up, then you can put in how many hours to go pick that up. Like here, it's 2 hours. Or if I select supplier delivering, instead I could just put in how much it's going to cost me to have the supplier deliver all that material.
Sure.
If you need to include any geogrid, you can include that. Like if I want to have a 4 foot wide by 50 foot long geogrid roll, it'll then tell you how many layers you need based off of the spacing for that.
Yeah, and GeoGrid's good for stabilization, especially for structural height walls.
Yep.
That's often needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything like, at least where I'm at, anything over 4 feet requires GeoGrid and then like an engineer to look at it. So that really helps kind of lock in the wall to all the sub dirt and gravel behind it.
Okay.
Yeah, from there we have perforated pipe. So perforated pipe is a drainage pipe that runs behind the retaining wall. So it's in here at one row. It's going to tell you how many linear feet you need. And then you can also select what type. So in here, we just have 4-inch perf pipe, but you can adjust that as needed as well.
Okay.
And then how many drains are going to be exiting the face of the wall. So this is how many drains you want coming out of the wall. And you can choose if you want like a square drain grate, or if you have other types of drain grates, you can add those in here and how much they cost.
Okay.
And then once we have the wall, this is like gotten through all building the wall and the drainage behind it. Now we're going to get to the actual gravel backfill. So you can choose what type of rock you want to backfill the wall with. Maybe I'm going to use 3/4 inch angular rock. And then you can put in how much gravel you want. So it's in here at 1 foot. Maybe I want to do 1.5 feet. I want to do 18 inches of gravel. You can adjust that here and it'll calculate how many tons you need based off this size.
Okay.
Yeah, and then from here, same thing. You can choose if you're going to pick up that gravel, or maybe I'm going to have the supplier deliver the gravel as well. And then I could put in how much that'll cost. If I also need to backfill the wall with any dirt, you can do that. Maybe I have 1.5 feet of gravel and I also need to bring in some dirt. Most of the time, this isn't needed. Since you're excavating dirt, you can use that. But in some certain cases, you will need to bring in dirt. So in that case, you could put that in here and it'll include that. Mm-hmm. Now, the last option here is if you want to include fabric behind the wall. This is an option if you need to, but I think most walls, it all depends on the type of wall. But if you need to include fabric, you can here if you need to. And then this is where we actually break down all the hours. So this is something that's a lot different than some of these other systems. Is we break down the hours into separate like tasks that need to be done. So the first is the excavation work, then the gravel footer, then installing the wall block, then the perforated pipe, the gravel backfill, and the caps. So we have these like 6 different tasks here that are broken down, and it breaks all the hours down based off of production rates. So we have production rates default in the system, and then you can adjust those and make them more specific to your company.
And that's another good tool, because when you're breaking those out, if you specialize in hardscaping, you may have an excavation crew versus a finishing crew.
Yep.
So then you can budget and give assignments to each foreman that way. So that's good to break it out.
Absolutely. And then you can even like do rough schedules and that kind of stuff based off of it. So yeah, it's good to have it that way. And then you can see the total hours. So this is coming out to 2 days with 5 guys for this retaining wall. Maybe I'm only going to have 3 guys on this job site. I can change that here and it'll recalculate the amount of days. And you can also always override it. So if I'm going to have something up here, if I'm going to switch from good access to bad access, down here, it's going to change it from 3.3 days to 4.6 days. So that's in there based off of the production rates. And then you can also edit it as well. Like if I want to go and manually add 10% more hours, I can put that in here. And now I'm bumping it up to 5 days. So that's kind of how the days and the hours work together.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from here, these are some of the other things that sometimes people don't think about, but it's like mobilization hours. Maybe I want to include like 3 hours to go deliver all my machines and stuff. And I want to include like 4 hours to go pick up some of the materials. From there, you can also include equipment. Maybe I'm going to put 2 pieces of equipment on this job. I'm going to have my excavator there for 4 hours, and I'm going to have my skid steer there for 12 hours or whatever. You can plug that in to make sure you're also charging and including the equipment. If you have any rental equipment, I could put that in, like 1 rental, and choose I need this for 1 day. And then based off of that, it's going to show you a list of everything you need. So this is our detailed breakdown here, where it's showing a list of each of the different items we're going to need. Okay. And this is where on other systems, you usually have to go and manually plug in each one of these quantities yourself. Where in this system, we just plug in the information above and it'll automatically calculate a lot of that for us.
That's nice. Yeah.
So this will have like 200 face feet of the retaining wall block at 16 per face foot. Maybe for whatever reason, this one's going to cost me $18 a face foot. You can edit it here and it'll recalculate your cost and charge based off of that. And then you can edit anything. Maybe I want to, up here, we can also adjust our profit margins and our charge. So we have the labor charge per hour in here at 75 per hour. This will all depend on your company's budget and your company's overhead on what you need to be charging per hour to make the profit you want to make. But
now when you're editing real quickly the price of a particular line item material, does that auto-populate back to the material for next time, or is this a one and done function?
At the current moment, it's you're only editing on here, but we have an update coming out very soon where when you edit, it makes a pop-up and you can choose if you want to save that to your catalog, to your price catalog.
Sweet.
So yeah, that's coming out very, very soon, just to make it where when you edit it, you can just save it and all future estimates will have that number from then on.
Yeah, because why that's important is products change in pricing sometimes fairly often. And so when an estimator comes to your software and starts a nice list and they got the list finished, he can pick up the phone, call Site One or whoever, and then double check the pricing. And then boom, input some quick numbers.
And it even helps you too if you have it in your estimate like this. So then if the job's in a few months and you go to the client and you see that the price has increased, at least you have something to go back to.
There you go.
So one thing we do as well down here is we put this is allocated at 18 per face foot. That's in here by default. Of course, they can change that if they need to, but this does allow them to, if the price in 6 months from now when they actually do the job is now 22 a face foot, they could come back and easily do a change order for that work.
Okay.
What do you think about that, Kevin? Would you put that in your contracts?
What, this verbiage here?
Yeah, because it goes 50-50 on some contractors if they like it or they don't.
18. I wouldn't put the pricing of the. I don't know. I don't think I would put. I would definitely.
Some people will just put the name and they won't put the price. And that's okay too, because then you can always go back. But yeah, it's totally customizable.
One thing that you have Belgard in there, but that's just the brand. I would definitely have models in there. The type model.
Well, that's all based off of what they import because we need to get their pricing. So we don't put that in there as like default options. But yes, when they import their type of block, it'll have like Belgard dimensions and all the different actual names and colors.
Yeah, I like this summary though for the client to be in the contract because it's the nice key summary of the main ingredients going into the project. So it's nice to see that recap there.
Yeah, so this is the description that gets shown on the estimate, which we can get to after this. But so this is the material list of everything we're going to need here. This has the labor, this has the materials, and you can edit from here if you need to. And then down below is where it's going to write out the client description. So this is all the details of the project. We try and save time here and autofill information. And a lot of other systems, you have to go and manually plug in each one of these, where this has it all here. And also if I switch things, like let's say here it says it includes excavating 3 feet back. If I come up here and I take the excavation off, that will automatically disappear from down below so that you don't have to go and manually do that. So then that line will just disappear here. So that's kind of how that works with the wording. We try and save time there. And then when you're ready to send this out, you can adjust your payment terms as needed. So if you have like a deposit, a couple of payments throughout the job, you can set the percentages of each one of those. And when you're ready to send it out, you'll just hit the estimate preview up here. And this is what it'll look like for the customer. So it has all the numbers in there. And then this is actually what it'll look like when the customer receives it, because all those numbers are all internal just for you to look at. And then this is what it looks like when you're actually presenting it. So the photo at the top is customizable. It'll show your company's logo here, customer name and address. And then this is what the block retaining wall template actually looks like when it's in the estimate. So it'll have like the total price of that retaining wall, the description here. There's an expandable photo that you can add in a photo of one of your projects. And then it would have any other line item. So I have this planting line item in here that we haven't filled out, that any other line items would show. And then it'll show the contract total, the payment terms, any terms and conditions that you have, all the legal stuff, the warranty stuff. And then you're able to add your contractor signature here, typing out your name or draw it. And you can actually send this out to the customer where they can view it and sign it through the system.
And it'll, since you have the customer that's already inputted into the software, it'll go ahead and just send it based on the email provided.
Yeah. So when you press send to customer, it'll pop up that your customer's email will show right here. If you need to add like a second email or something, you can. And then we have like a default email template in here, but you can change that however you want, and then send it out to the customer, and they'll
Does it go to? Will it go to text as well, or just email?
Yeah, so you could text it over to the customer. I'll show you how you can do that. It's not built in right into our system yet. It's coming soon, but we do have a way where you can just copy the link for that estimate. Once the estimate's been signed, down here there's this link I can copy, and then you could text that link to your customer, and whenever they go to it, it'll take them right to the estimate itself once they click that.
Okay.
So here, I'll just copy it and I can show an example of what it looks like here. So like you could just text this link to your customer and then they can view it on their phone as well, or they can view it in the email, however you want. You can also download a PDF and do it that way. But it'll show your company's logo here, your company's name here, and then this is what it'll look like for the customer. So they have a download button. If they need it as a PDF, they can read through everything. They can view the photos. They can view the terms and conditions, and then they can sign it when they're ready to.
Alex, you guys have, how many templates do you guys have currently?
Over, I'd say like 200. We break them up in between yards and tons of how you purchase base material, but then also in-house labor subs. So if you're buying the materials, subcontracting the labor, or fully subbed.
Okay.
No, and when you sign up, you get all the templates. You can pull them into your account. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on Alex's point where we have, if I search pavers, I have an in-house template in tons and in yards. So that's just based off of how you're buying your base rock and your base aggregates. And then we also have labor subbed, which means you're buying the materials but subbing out the labor. And then we have fully subbed here, which means you're fully subbing out the whole job. So we have the templates built in all of those different scenarios so that it's all ready for the type of way you do the work.
Oh, that's good. It's more customizable even that way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I select pavers labor sub here, it'll allow me to calculate all my materials, but instead of doing man hours, I'll just put in how much they're charging per square foot. So let's say like 750 square feet. It'll calculate all my materials here, how many tons of base, how many tons of sand, what type of pavers I want, all that stuff. But instead of the man hours, we're going to have this box that says sub cost at X per square foot. So you can edit this to however much the sub's going to charge you per square foot.
Yeah.
And then it'll do it off of those numbers there.
And then account for hours for you to manage the project as well.
Yeah. Here you can put in-house hours to manage / mobilize. Just if you're going to be there for some time, you want to make sure you're recovering that time.
Nice. $7 a foot for a sub. Sign him up.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And then eventually you're going to have syncing with QuickBooks, and that way they can pay through the QuickBooks software to pay the down payment.
Correct. Yes. So we have that coming out in 3 weeks from when we're recording this. So about end of June, we have our full QuickBooks sync and invoicing features coming out, which allows you after the customer signs the estimate, it would pop up with the deposit information. If you want to accept credit cards or ACH payments through QuickBooks or Stripe, you can do that. Otherwise, you can give them like what address they should send the check to. And then you can record all the invoices, record payments. You can do change orders. You can see like a summary of how much is still due on the job, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you guys see how quick it is to write accurate estimates, giving you extreme detail and visibility into your estimating process without having to slave away at it for hours. Not only does it help you write them quicker, close jobs by giving proposals a lot quicker, but then when you take it to job cost, you have so much more information to go back to your estimates, to check the actuals, and then to make adjustments for the next project to come. Learn where you made mistakes pretty much.
Okay. Very cool, guys. Yeah.
I was just going to say job costing is very important because you can actually you can look at all these numbers here on this right side as far as your material costs, your labor, your subs, how many total man hours, and then you can track what you're actually spending on the job, and you can figure out, did I spend more or less in materials than I planned, or subs, or did we take more than 4.5 days? That you can look at all these numbers and make sure you're actually learning from every project you do, so that you can go and make your estimates going forward even more accurate and make sure you're covering for those things. So when you sign up through the link in the description, you'll get 10% off your first month. So that's a kind of a default link there.
Well, thank you guys for showing us this amazing estimation software. It's a game changer for me, coming off of spreadsheets and taking so much time and effort to come up with an accurate price. It's so refreshing that I can come here and just go through some simple boxes, and it auto calculates production times, material quantities, and the whole shebang, putting it into simple terms that the customer sees, and then they can go ahead and sign for it. And eventually you guys are going to be synced with QuickBooks and get paid for it right away for deposit, so you can go ahead and schedule that booger. That's nice. Well, thank you guys for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up this episode, guys. Put us in the comments, what ways are you using to estimate currently? Or if you have any questions for the guys here at Zevbit, comment below. Make sure you subscribe to the Outdoorsy Entrepreneur YouTube channel and hit those notifications, and listen to wherever you get your podcast, and follow us on our social media platforms at Outdoorsy Boss. Learn more about using Zevbit and save 10% off your first month. We have an affiliate link down in the description below. The Outdoorsy Entrepreneur Masterclass will be launching later this summer. It's going to be a community of like-minded, dedicated entrepreneurs like yourselves working on their business to level up and build a business that they can operate with less stress. Check out outdoorsyentrepreneur.com and sign up for early bird pricing. Can't wait to see everyone in the next episode.